Hey there, thank you so much for coming back to Checking the Gate. My name is William, and this podcast exists to shine a light on independent films and independent filmmakers and to have conversations with the people behind the projects. Today's film is a short film called Intersection. Now, what that means is that today's conversation is just between me and you because I wrote and I directed this film when I was in college. In 2007, I was enrolled in the mass media program at Valdosta State University in Valdosta, Georgia, and I was in the audio production track, which means that I was about to get a degree in radio studio production, and later, actually, while I was in my senior year, they transferred that into more of a audio post-production for film and television. What happened was the classes were named kind of all the same things. There was four different paths you could go down in the mass media world at that time, and so some of the more field-specific stuff had similar names, just audio versus video. And if you weren't paying attention, like I was not paying attention, then it was easy to do what I did, which was get confused and sign up for Video Field Production 1 instead of Audio Field Production 1. Now, that doesn't say much for me from an IQ standpoint, I suppose, but I heard a statement lately that says, when God made a plan for your life, he factored in your stupidity. And I believe this was one of those moments because I thought, like, man, I should just get up and walk out of here. And clearly, I just need to drop this and be done with it. And the more I sat there, I was like, you know what? Like, I'm learning audio stuff to record music, but a lot of this path is, they were transitioning at the time to audio post-production for film and TV. And I was like, I should probably know as much as I can about film and TV so that I can do my audio production job better in the future. And so wisdom came out of that stupid 20-year-old that signed up for the wrong class. And so I decided to stay. And so I decided that I would make a film. And I had been writing songs for years at that point, and I knew how to tell stories. I mean, I'd been telling lots of stories through that other medium for a long time, so why not translate it? And I've been a storyteller my whole life, so like, why not pull out a camera and see what happens? And as it turns out, that was one of the best decisions that I've ever made. And it led me on a path that almost 2 decades later, here I am, and I work in this field almost every day. And I'm always doing something related to work behind a camera or in front of a camera or near a camera or whatever. So like, it's definitely a moment in my life that seemed like a mistake that wound up being the best thing that ever happened. And so along those lines, I wrote a movie called Intersection, which, as it turns out, Intersection was indicative of where I was at the time. It was an intersection into a new path that I decided to walk. The film Intersection is a short film that is an adaptation of Edgar Allan Poe's The Telltale Heart. The premise of Intersection, which is hosted on NDTV, you can go to newdealtelevision.com/intersection and watch the trailer and learn more about the movie. But essentially, it's a story of a guy who's too busy in his own little world to notice that a guy on a bicycle rode out in front of him. If you've ever made a short film or a student film, you know that there's a lot of things that you have to do yourself because you can't convince somebody to help you or to do it for you. And at the time, I didn't know anybody with aspirations to be an actor, let alone a stunt person. So I wound up being a stunt person. So I was the guy on the bicycle that rode out in front of somebody and got hit by a car. And I couldn't convince anybody I knew to get hit by a car on a bike. So it was me. and which turned out great because I loved it. I enjoyed being in front of the camera every time I had a chance to at the time. And I still do. And so also growing up on the farm, like I grew up, we did a lot of things that are considered every single day in the film and television industry as a stunt. And we just did them for fun because we thought it was fun. And so it just seemed like a good time to be hit on a bicycle with a car. And I mean, obviously we took all the precautions necessary to be safe. There's still some danger. And so I was the guy on the bike. And so from there, I mean, you just do everything you can do to make a movie on zero budget. Like, I think I bought food for everybody once or something, but for the most part, it was just hey, we're doing this, please come do it. And they did it. But like, we got to do some fun things. Like, I worked with props for the first time. I had to make the mangled bike that was up under the car with me. And I did that by driving my granddaddy's tractor over a donor bike. Like I wasn't going to run over my own actual bike. So I bought a bike from Goodwill and I painted it the same color as my actual hero bike. And I ran over it with a tractor, heated it up with a blowtorch, and folded it over. And I believe when my granddaddy came home and caught me driving over a bike with his tractor, that he was already particular about me not really doing much with, which was always funny. Sidebar, like I had been driving tractors and working on the farm with my dad, driving other people's tractors for 10 years at that point. I was baling hay when I was 10 or 11 years old. And so I'm 20 now, and my granddaddy was already particular about me using his tractor. And then he comes home to find me running over a bicycle with it. And he's like, yeah, I think we're done here. And to my knowledge, I don't think I ever drove that tractor again. And it's fine. It's fine. But it was funny. It makes for a good story, makes for good memories, especially now that he's no longer with us. Looking back on those moments with a smile is never a bad thing. But so we had some good times. So we worked in props. I worked in special effects makeup. It wasn't really makeup. It was corn starch, corn syrup, vegetable oil, and flour and red food coloring. We mixed up some fake blood and poured it all over me under the car. And so that was a rough thing to have to direct a film while being wedged between the undercarriage of a car and a bicycle that was like wrapped around you. And I only wanted to do the stunt once as it turns out, I got hit on the bike about 7 times, but I only wanted to be under the car once. And so I had to fight the urge to yell cut when I was being dragged around out from under the car out to the back of the SUV because the guy buries me, side note, spoiler alert, whatever you want to call it. But if you know the Telltale Heart, you know what this is. So the guy gets nervous and he doesn't want to call the cops. He doesn't want to get in trouble. So he buries the body. And so I'm the body because we didn't have any mannequins or anything. So he's dragging me out from under the car and my pants slipped down just enough where my raw skin was being dragged on the asphalt. I don't recommend that. I still have a scar from that to this day, but we were only going to do it once. And so we did it once and made it count. And it's very hard to pretend to be dead while you're in excruciating pain. But it is what it is, and I survived, and 17 years later, here we are. But that was fun. It was a good time, and then there's always funny stories in filmmaking. Like while I was under the car, this guy that was mowing his lawn, like 4 houses down, decided he was going to come check on the commotion and see if he needed to call an ambulance because there was a lot of blood everywhere, quote unquote. But instead of just walking down, he decides to drive his lawnmower down. So we had to hold for sound for like the entire 25 minutes that it took him to drive down the street on his lawnmower, turn around, and drive all the way back. You run into hiccups. Just lots of little things that went into making the production value of this pretty high to be a film I spent almost no money on whatsoever. And I do credit this film as being one of the major turning points of my life. And there were so many little things that kept happening. Like it screened well, it tested well, I guess, with the focus group that was the rest of the class. We had a screening day at the end of that semester. And I mean, we did some cool things. We had a rain scene. We had the death on a bike scene. We had just all the little things it took to make something that big, if you will, on no budget. We did it and we pulled it off pretty well. And I mean, I kind of put it on a shelf and I didn't think about it, because it was just that one thing that I did, to get through school. But about a year later, I was in my senior year, and they were putting together what I believe is one of the first film festivals at VSU. And one of my professors knew that I had done this and that I had no business having done it because I was an audio major. And he's like, "Hey, I noticed you didn't put your film in the film festival. Would you like to?" And I was like, "No, I don't know. Like, I don't want to crowd the space. It's not really my place to put a film in there. I'm not a video guy." And he was like, "You know what?" He's like, "I thought that too once upon a time." And when I was in film school, this guy was in film school, and his actual career was set deck. So he worked in like building the world so that other people could shoot it. Had no directing ambitions or no filmmaking ambitions other than to just do his work on set deck and go home at the end of the day. But he had made a film, and he was telling me how he entered it into a film festival. and won a few things. And he was like, you know what? I think you should. He's like, I've seen it and I think it's awesome. So you should try it. And so I did. I entered it, and all of the submissions were sent off to Hollywood professionals that were friends of all of our professors, and they were judged. And as it turns out, this random offbeat adaptation of The Telltale Heart that I made on a whim because I signed up for the wrong class, it was nominated in almost every category. And it actually won Best Editing, which was a riot because, like, I was an audio production major, you know, like I had touched a film editing software maybe twice before I did this class, but I was particular. Like I had been recording and editing music, so I knew the nonlinear editing software at the time, and I was like, you know, there's only a couple of more things to know to do a rough version. And so I had done that, and I won. But I have a plaque that I still keep on my desk as a memento of the time, you know, like almost as a way to like try new things, or like as a reminder to try new things. And like I wouldn't have that plaque had I continued to say no. Just what a cool thing to still be with me 17 years later. This podcast is called Checking the Gate, and I explained how like it means more so the non-film version. So if you go back and listen to the first episode ever, I discussed the name of this. But it comes back to when I was on the farm and we drive up to a gate that looked locked. But the trick was it just was chained and had a lock present that wasn't locked. And if you just check the gate, more often than not, you can go right through it. And so that is the whole premise of this podcast, is to impart some sort of knowledge that I've gained over the last 2 decades of doing this. Like whatever hurdle you're facing, whatever gate you think you're at, like that you can't get through to make films, there's a way through if you just try, and if you just look, and if you seek out the right advice and the right counsel, like from me on this podcast or any other guest that I ever have on the show. Like I'm going to be talking to people that have been where you are if you're stuck. These people, and myself included, can help you get through that gate. And one of the ways to help you get through the gate is through NDTV. New Deal Television is for independent creators. And so if you'd like more information on that, you can go to newdealtelevision.com/submissions. And you'll see, if you go to newdealtelevision.com, you'll see all the other projects that are there, and just look around and see if maybe that's a thing that can help you. We all work in an industry that is so volatile, and we've seen that over the last 2 years in 2022 and 3 and even 4, with the threat of striking and the threat of the industry just shutting down because numbers are down and budgets are cut. And on top of that, there's all the strikes. And there's just an opening. It's just a wide open berth here for a new thing that we all get to do together. And I'm so excited about that. And so New Deal Television is the way to do that. It is the way to bust through the gate. Whatever gate you're up against as far as distribution goes, there's a way through, and that way is NDTV. So if you'd like more information, just go to the website. You can reach out also on any social media. We have TikTok, we have Instagram, we have Facebook, whatever it is, reach out. There's a contact form on the website, newdealtelevision.com. Check it out, and let's see if we can get through these gates together. Thanks so much for coming, and I hope to see you next time.